Welcome. This is Bernard Drew of Liberty Management, and I have the privilege of welcoming you to just a great sneak peek and a hot introduction to some key business owners here in our community that have not only been making it through and navigating so many different changes just in our overall environment, but have been taking the time to reevaluate, adjust, and as we know here, pivot as it pertains to how to function in their organizations, lead their families, lead their staff, and obviously make an impact in the community. And so I look forward to having an experience with you today that allows you to laugh, to have some inspiration, and hopefully take away a few keys that allow you to take some next steps in a positive direction for your organization and for those that you influence as well. And so we're gonna get going right here, right now. And I would love to just have an open, casual conversation. There's no pressure. Quite frankly, there's no right or wrong answer. And I think the joy of today is just going to be being authentic, knowing that our only aim today is to add value. Our only aim today is to bring a level of candor and inspiration that can help others that are right here in our community looking for solutions too. And so without further ado, I'd love to begin with our initial question. That should be a real easy, open-ended statement. And I would love for each of you to introduce yourselves. And while introducing yourselves, feel free to dive right on in. And so our first question with this illustrious panel today, I would love to know and hear from you in regards to what has been the overall impact of this pandemic, COVID-19, and its impact on your organization and how you lead and how you serve based on what you're doing now versus what you may have been doing prior to its occurrence. What I'd love to do is go ahead and get a start here with Mr. Mitch Karis of Bagel on the Run.
Hi, as you say, I'm Mitch Karis. I own Bagel on the Run at the Flint Farmers Market. We just started during the pandemic because before that, I owned flour and eggs at the farmers market. We had to close down for a few months because of the pandemic, between the government restrictions on restaurants. But then we came back as a delivery service, curbside delivery, and we started making family meals because we knew the struggle of moms and dads having to make family dinners. So we went from individual meals to meals for 4, 6, 8. Whatever it was. But then when the market reopened in June, we struggled because of pricing of a lot of our product. A lot of our things doubled in price, and the availability of our product became less and less possible. So we cut down to basically a 5-item menu. And between that and a decrease of customers of about 70% at the market, we had to shut down. But at that point, I realized the market used to have a bagel operation, and they were successful. So I contacted the market directors and said, hey, is that something that I can do? And they said, by all means. So started organizing that, and on September 10th, we opened as Bagel on the Run, and we sell fresh bagels, handmade spreads, a bunch of other things, sandwiches, and we do catering, and we still do a curbside service at the market. And in the first month, we've shown real good returns. In the meantime, I haven't lost any staff.
All right.
In fact, the one person that I relied on most, she even got a raise, which I'm sure she appreciated. And yeah, it's all gung-ho from here.
That's remarkable. And I've got to ask because sincerely, I'm sitting here listening to you and it sounded like you not only made one pivot, I heard multiple pivots in there. Please give me some insight as to what was going on in your head during that season.
Main thing was fear. I had too much money put into flour and egg to just walk away. Too much debt from flour and egg. So I needed to keep doing something. I am retired from a previous profession, and retirement's just not me. So I had to do something. And my wife was a big supporter.
That's huge.
And yeah, I mean, she could have just said, time is up.
Yep.
And she said, no, you gotta stay out there, keep your mind busy. So that's what we did. And my employee has been fantastic. I mean, she has put in the hours that I couldn't because of health issues that I have. And that's a big reason felt I needed to give her a raise to show her appreciation.
That's remarkable. And there's a lot to unpack in your journey. And I don't want to do it any injustice by being brief.
Mm-hmm.
I sense that we could have a very extensive conversation
Probably.
about this journey. I appreciate your authenticity in regards to the reality that fear was a motivator.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that if we're candid with some of our attendees, there's almost this hypersensitive expectation that as an entrepreneur, oh, we're fearless. And yet the reality is you just expressed that was somehow something you harnessed to be able to fuel your pivot. And the other thing that I hear that, again, we could take more time to unpack, and we'll have more questions down the road,
mm-hmm.
but I authentically hear your appreciation for the strength of your team.
You can never do it by yourself. There's not enough hours in the day. There's not enough days in the week. In previous professions, I learned that there has to be some balance. And that allows your family to accept or not be angry when you have to put those extra hours in because they know when it's important, you'll be there.
I was rehearsing just earlier today. I think the old statement, and again, this may not be precise, but if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together. Mm-hmm. And I'm hearing that in what you're describing, even with regards to the importance of those closest to you, being able to do all you can to help them be along the journey with you.
Absolutely.
Well, I appreciate even just this quick snapshot. And I have to say, my hope is that some of the individuals that are watching are going to be inspired. And not that you're asking for it, but I'll make the plug here. I'm sure if they want to contact Bagel on the Run, they can not only have a great experience with some sort of bagel and spread experience, mm-hmm. but hopefully they can have an opportunity to ask you some more questions or celebrate the journey and become raving fans as well.
Thank you. Anytime.
Absolutely. Well, our next, I was going to say contestant here. Sorry, I don't have any prizes, so I guess I better not call you a contestant here. We got Mr. Jason Warda of The Barn here. And so I'm excited that you're here. We got a chance to learn about some great things you've got in the pipeline that you're celebrating. But before we go to what's coming new, I'd love to hear some more, very much the same question. So much has shifted. I would love for you to introduce yourself, the name and nature of the business and the service that you provide, and how, again, this pandemic has caused you to have to reevaluate and pivot in this season.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. For me personally, like you said, my name is Jason Warda. I own a few different businesses in town. And for me, on March 12th, I think, was the day that it came down that, all the businesses were shut down. And I think he said it perfectly. I mean, I was terrified. In my opinion, I got into the bar business, owning at the time 3 bars and restaurants in town because I felt like they were recession proof. No matter what, people need to eat. People are going to drink. When things are tough, maybe they even drink more. So I always felt like I had a very strong business model and that I was going to be protected. And that day, it was literally the rug got pulled out from under us, and we were like, "Well, all 3 places are now shut down, and I've got, 65 employees that I had to lay off, and look them in the eye while they're crying." And I mean, that first day there's a lot of tears, a lot of fear. We ended up, we had so much food, at the places that we ended up giving to some of our single moms that work for us, and because waitresses don't have 401ks. They don't have, the bartenders don't have a retirement plan. They need that money every day, and they need to feed their kids. And with all this going on, they were scared. So, that first day we were boxing up food, letting people take it home, trying to let them know it's going to be okay, even though I didn't know that. It was that standard parent thing where you look your kid in the eye and say, it's going to be fine, even though I'm terrified. And I think we were shut down for a week at the barn. the Fenton Pub and the Panema Lodge were both completely shut down for a while. And I think we waited a week or so, kind of got our bearings, and then we started doing to-go food. To-go food was never a strength for us. We're just not that kind of place.
Okay.
And, what was probably 2% of our business ended up being all we had.
Wow.
So we were trying to do the to-go thing, and it was going okay. I had one of my most desperate, a mother of 5 that was kind of running the thing, trying to get some tips. And I had a cook that, I was just giving some cash to come in because he had nothing else to do and needed some money. And we kept that going for a few weeks. And, I started hearing about toilet paper shortages and cleaning supply shortages and beef shortages. And I was like, we've got all that stuff, So I talked to Cisco, who was, our supplier, and said, hey, can I get toilet paper? Can I get all this stuff still? You guys have it all. I'm like, yeah, they lost 80% of their business. So it was like, all right, well, so I moved a bunch of shelves out into my dining room and I turned it into a grocery store. And we sold toilet paper and we had cleaning supplies and we had all those essentials of things that people weren't able to find. And then all of a sudden I was doing well, and we were, that first day, it was a Saturday and you can order everything online. And all of a sudden I'm getting these emails, order, and I'm starting to count like rolls of toilet paper on, I'm getting the notifications of these orders. So I was like, I'm gonna have to turn this off because I think I just sold 4 cases of toilet paper already. And I was selling by individual rolls because that's how they come, like
Seriously?
wrapped, and then I had to put a cap on it, like only can get like 8 rolls at a time.
Wow. I gotta pause for a second.
Go ahead.
I'm just like any other snapshot in time, the thought that somebody would be any other snapshot in time, the thought that anybody would be having this kind of conversation that I'm selling toilet paper by the roll and I got to put a limit on it is just unbelievable. And yet you found a way to be and do just that.
Well, it was the same conversation to me. I was like, is this really a thing? But unfortunately, a lot of things happened over the past several months that everyone would never have believed, if you said it in advance. So that really lifted our spirits up enough to, I had a couple of my most desperate employees able to get some money coming in. They were making pretty decent money in tips with the orders, and we were doing online, so we were bringing out to the curbside kind of thing with them. And I felt like that was a big pivot point for me that it's going to be okay. We're going to make it through this. It's just, temporary. This isn't going to last long. And that lasted until mid-April or so. And somewhere around there, we were expecting the emergency order to end and that we'd be able to open back up. And it was announced that wasn't going to happen, that everything got extended again. And I'm a very laid-back, easygoing guy. I don't ever get flustered. And that moment, I got flustered. And I was frustrated, and I was angry, and I came home, and my 3 daughters and my wife are all there, and I'm like, we can't do this. Like, I was so frustrated. And my wife and daughter said, let's go on vacation.
Wow.
And I looked at them both, and I was like, my 18-year-old and my wife, and I was like, go pack your bags. And we're leaving tonight. I had no idea where we're going. But we got in the car, we started driving south. And somewhere around Cincinnati, we found an Airbnb in Savannah, Georgia. Georgia was all open at the time.
Okay.
And I was in a bad place mentally, just with everything going on, and I needed to get away.
Good.
So we got down there, and we had a little house with the pool, and we were in the sunshine, and we went out to eat, and all of a sudden, life felt normal again.
Okay.
And I got my head straight, and I realized that I need to get out of the bar business. I got too much invested in bars, and I don't have anything what's the new term is essential. No one ever heard of that in this capacity before, but that's the new thing. What's essential? So through this whole thing, my main pivot, is I started a new business, or I'm starting. So I got in, started thinking about what does Fenton need and what's essential, and it was, a meat market. We don't have a place to get good quality meats like a butcher shop, and so on the way back from Georgia, I started calling some realtors, and got to town and went and looked at a few different buildings, and found the perfect spot and started construction, and we should be opening next month. A little butcher shop, and that's some diversification for me. Of if this happens again, I've got something that I know is essential. That and I think it was all pivoted from doing the little grocery store during that whole thing that kind of forced me to look at another option to say, hey, this is something that we kind of need around here, and especially looking for meats, and a good quality, steak or whatnot. So I guess that's a short version of my long story.
Again, there's so much more to unpack in that, because again, I'm hearing just a consistency here of such a bold pivot in a totally different direction. And yet I think a level of consistency also in both cases, a level of fear that having to just be embraced. I learned a poem years ago. It said, fear is a mind killer. It's a little evil that disintegrates from the inside out. You got to learn to face it and control it. That brief. That's simple. You got to learn to face it and control it. And what I'm hearing is you've got multiple locations, 65 employees, a wife and 3 daughters. With that all in mind, part of what I'm also hearing is that people were part of the motivation once the fear was embraced, that people was part of the motivation for being able to do something different. Now, the question I'm going to ask, and I want you to think on it, we're going to come back to it, because I want to make sure we get a chance to just speak to our next panelist. I'm going to call you our next contestant. There are certain things you just mentioned that prompt me to want to inquire about what other resources, relationships in the community did you tap into that helped support your transition and your pivot in this season. So give that some thought. And as you're meditating on those questions there, I'd love to introduce our next panelist here. This is Mr. Eric Rudderman of Fenton Middle School. And, there's a whole nother gamut of responsibility and fear that I'm sure are just inherent in working with children. I would love for you, obviously, to introduce yourself and share with us as well, what types of things did you have to encounter, face, and possibly pivot through in the midst of the pandemic?
Thank you, Bernard. Happy to be here. Just like I'm going to probably echo a lot of what Jason and Mitch have said. Jason mentioned the date, March 12th, and I'm sitting here. I can remember Thursday, March 12th, when the executive order from the governor went out that schools were going to be shut down. That was the first pivot, or about face, if you will. We scrambled. There was a lot of fear. There was a lot of uncertainty. I can tell you that by the afternoon of Friday, March 13th, so Friday the 13th, ironically, we already had students and staff online virtually.
Already.
From going to face-to-face. In education, we pivot all the time. There's a lot of flexibility. There's a lot of uncertainty. This just added a whole new level, just the unknown and the unpredictability of what was going to happen. We quickly transitioned from face-to-face to what I would call remote learning or distance learning. We spent the majority of March all the way through April making sure that our families had food. We had bus stops. As the principal of the middle school, I was on a bus delivering food to families. We were delivering families food right to their doorstep. We had kids that didn't have their books. We had students that didn't have their materials and needed them to learn remotely. We had teachers that were that stepped up immediately to provide a service for their students and instruct in a way that they've never instructed before. There was a lot of fear there. However, as the leader of a building, as much fear as we have right here in our hearts and in our minds, we can never let them see us sweat. And Jason said he had to clear his head out. There were times where I had to clear my head before, talking to a parent or a family or a teacher. They couldn't, I didn't want to let them see the fear in us, because we had to lead them through this uncertain time. We've got to get through this. We had to get Chromebooks, laptops, technology out into the hands of our students. We were going door to door. We had the buildings open for students to come and pick up books and technology. Obviously, we had to follow, protocols that we've never had to worry about before. Distancing, this is, before masks became trendy. So we were doing all of these things to get all of this stuff out into the hands of our students. So that leads us up to the start of this school year. We spent an entire summer trying to figure out how and when we were going to start school. What is it going to look like? Again, so much uncertainty. Things change almost on the daily with protocol and within emergency or executive orders. We made the decision around the end of July, beginning of August, to start the year remotely as well as virtually. Our families had the opportunity to choose whether their student was going to go back to school face-to-face, or if they were going to be taking classes in what we call the Tiger Virtual Academy. So again, there's another pivot. We now have a virtual school within the Fenton School District.
That's new?
That's brand new. It's called Tiger Virtual Academy. Students are literally taking online classes through a platform, an online platform. Teachers are not only again. Let me rewind a little bit. The start of the school year face-to-face was announced as October 1st, although the very first day of school was August 24th. So we now have students on a virtual platform, and we have teachers teaching students who will be coming back to school October 1st face-to-face, teaching them remotely. Okay, so a virtual platform and a remote platform. We are now in our 8th or 9th day face-to-face with students back in the building. We have about 180 students that are on a virtual platform. We have close to 600 plus students back in the building face-to-face.
Wow.
Students haven't been in the building since March 12th. So along the way, certainly there were several times that we had to pivot into a different direction. Again, just 8 days ago, another pivot occurred when we had our students come back to school for the first time since March. Just in thinking about all the logistics of this and the planning and students having things left in their lockers, to having textbooks at home, to returning textbooks, all of the materials and logistics that we don't even think about during a normal school year. All of those things, we have certainly had to plan quite a bit, and just really on a day-to-day basis, just improvise, each day and each week. And we're continuing to pivot, because tonight our middle school has parent-teacher conferences.
Oh, wow.
And our parent-teacher conferences are going to be held virtually. So, yes.
I can imagine kids who've been trying to hide that information. Now, there's no escape.
Yeah, there's no
Virtual.
escape. So parents are signing up for slots online to meet and Zoom with their teachers.
This is just so many. One thing that stands out to me, I hear the consistency of embracing the fear, and yet in each case, and I have no better word to use than this: the love for the other people that you're responsible for, that you're responsible to, being a force to inspire another level of creativity, another level of selflessness. And yet I can appreciate in both cases realizing, look, I'm pouring out for everybody else. I still need to recharge myself. And so, again, I've got a couple other questions we'll come back to. That'll be another one I'd like to get some more insight on. You might be able to help some of the entrepreneurs that are listening. What is it that you do and have done to help recharge yourself? And I'll say this. I'm going to ask some more questions because you've got a whole nother dynamic that you're dealing with. But just kind of a pause now. Any other insights to other things that you've done or you would encourage other entrepreneurs to do to recharge yourself when things get tight? Anything at all. And this is an open question.
I mean, for me, I find it very important to have whatever release, you know, that I have. I'm a water sports guy. I'm a hockey player, and you know, it's important for me to take that time once a week, go get on the ice, or you know, I go scuba diving. You know what I mean? Get down there where I don't have to listen to my phone ring, and you know, that's important to me. But I mean, I think everybody needs that thing that you do that centers you, especially with all the noise going on around you. You know, it's important to drown it out and to let yourself get neutral again.
It's a great question. I'll tell you, two of the many things I do to sort of clear my head, refocus, recharge. One of them is going to the gym and working out. The other one is my youngest daughter plays a high level of travel soccer, and we're traveling all the time, and I love watching her play. I could do neither of those things, you know, until very recently. So again, even in my own personal life, the things that I relied upon to sort of recharge or refocus, I couldn't do them. So I had to, again, pivot on that. I began doing yoga in my living room, which, you know, much to the entertainment of my daughter. I love to read. I found that I don't really have time to read unless I'm on vacation on a beach somewhere. I probably read about 4 books that I, you know, normally wouldn't have had the time to do. So again, even in finding those things that allow me to refresh and refocus, I had to pivot on that. But it all worked out.
Thank you.
I'm another one who never has time to read.
Okay.
I think since March, I read 7 books.
Oh, wow.
And usually I'll read business books. It's all non-business. It's all historical novels, or I read about somehow got into Ulysses S. Grant and never gave 2 thoughts about him in 61 years of life. And I saw the docudrama about him. All of a sudden I bought his autobiography and some other biography, and it's like a whole new world opened, and my wife goes, wow, you still know how to read. So, and the other thing has been getting, I think, closer to my family. As I said, my son's been away for 4 years.
Okay.
He went away a kid, now he's a grown man. I'm sure if he had come back in May without this, we would have been going places and doing things. And but the little things like his sense of humor that hasn't been around, and the help physically that he gives to both my wife and I is priceless. So I joked at the beginning, like, how long is my wife going to be able to put up with me? And after 31 years, she's doing a great job.
Sounds like she's learning to innovate, adapt, and grow
every day. So yeah, it's been a real blessing.
You know, I'm inspired just listening, and I have to say, I think it's taken a turn where I think sometimes you can tune in as an entrepreneur, and at least personally, sometimes I'll jump on a podcast, I'll jump on a YouTube video, and I'm like, give me the guts, give me the meat and potatoes of this thing. And I have to say, even as I'm sitting here with each of you, is an obvious sense of your capacity to be an expert in your field, an expert in what you do. And yet I can appreciate, again, the transparency and the genuineness that expresses, hey, there's fear in the process. And even now, every example you've given has almost been, I need to learn to unplug from the main thing and find something else that recharges me, so that then I'm recharged, equipped, and replenished to go back and serve the people that I work with. You know, I'm encouraged that as we're here and we are tuned in together on this broadcast, you all have definitely provided a level of inspiration that I think is going to send me back home almost reevaluating, because I've made some pivots, but boy, I tell you, these are some extraordinary pivots here. And I hope that it provides some inspiration for others that are watching. So going back to where we were, and I appreciate you allowing me to make that shift and ask everyone in terms of their ways of expressing and escaping and getting recharged. I was inspired to ask that question because I am convinced, just listening to you and reflecting on some of the dynamics. My wife is a principal of so many tiers of responsibility, because you've got not only CDC guidelines to be mindful of, you've got a school board to be responsible and accountable to, the state's requirements, you've got staff to equip, communicate, parents to field questions with, let alone the main aim, which is the children to inspire. Please tell me how you've managed to be able to maintain communication and harmony along that journey, and any key people that have helped you to do so.
I appreciate that question. As you mentioned, Bernard, the layers of people that we deal with in education, in the building alone, from cooks to custodians to teachers, we're dealing with our parents, our students, school board members, the community. I can tell you that from day one, from that March 12th date, the infamous March 12th, this community is incredible. I've been in the Fenton Area Public Schools since 2001. I began my education career as a teacher at the middle school that I'm currently the principal at.
Right.
So I've been there a long time. But I can tell you right now that this community has stepped up, has supported us. I have the best staff in the entire world. They're awesome. They are doing the best that they possibly can to provide an engaging experience for our students during a challenging time, right down to our custodians who are stepping up to sanitize our buildings, cleaning desks, with all the different protocols that we have to put into place. Our kitchen staff, that putting out breakfast every morning and lunch every day after school, to our bus drivers,
Sure.
that are having to to me, that's the toughest job in the district. And all of the protocols from the CDC, the Genesee County Health Department, that we have to put into place, in addition to our number one goal, and that is impacting the lives of our students. It all goes back to that. I can tell you that I just want to thank the Fenton community, my staff at AGS, the parents, Fenton Area Public School parents, and especially our students. It is awesome having our students back in the building. That's the best part of my job, and I haven't been able to do that since March 12th.
I can appreciate, again, hearing the power of people coming together and harmonizing. I'd ask the two, both Mitch and Jason, just in regards to, at this stage, any other insights or tidbits you'd like to share with regards to harmony, community, people, and your pivot journey and what's coming up.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with Eric. The Fenton community is amazing. It's been so supportive of everything that we've done, and trying to get us through what's confusing for everyone. I mean, the one thing you can say about today's environment is it's polar. I mean, there's one side or there's the other. There's no in between.
Yeah.
And trying to be an entrepreneur in that situation where it's like, hey, you got to be the one to tell a guy to put a mask on. It's like, well, what if he doesn't want to wear a mask? This is my livelihood. He's never going to support me again. And putting my staff in that situation, these 16-year-old girls that are working the front door, that have to look at a grown adult and tell them, you need to put a mask on. And all of my staff, we're put in a crazy situation that, okay, we're going to open up, but here's all these rules and all this new stuff that we need to do. And being a restaurant, we already had a lot of the cleanliness protocols in place, but there was obviously a lot of things that were changing, and orders were coming all over the place, trying to keep track of them all. And all of my staff really stepped up all summer long, and they're put in positions to fail. And I hate doing that to my staff. It's important, put them in a position to succeed. And, they just weren't really set up to do that. And I thanked them every single day at work. I told them, thanks for coming in today. Thank you for doing all that you've done. I know it was a hard day, working a double shift because we're short staffed. That's one thing we never even touched on, is how hard it was to find employees, through all this time. So many of my staff were working double shifts and working 7 days a week, literally, just trying to do their part to help out. And, not to mention they've got a grandma living at their house that's worried about getting sick. And so it was just a terribly confusing and hard time for everyone. So for me to sit here and thank everyone would be impossible. But, I've got an unlimited list of people that worked with me, my staff, customers that, made our lives easier, obviously my family. But it was definitely one of those community efforts to get everyone through it. And, I've heard statistics as high as 20% of small businesses have closed. And I'm just really grateful that I'm not on that list. And, thank you to all the people around that were part of that.
Ditto. But I think I thank my family enough, or never enough. But there is so much governmental help and entrepreneur help out there.
All right.
The Flint area chamber, Genesee Chamber of Commerce, has been really good in getting out information about the loans and grants and things like that. The SBDC with Harry and Stacy, and helping me in forming the new business and getting me through the changes have been fantastic. The Mott Foundation built a program through Cafe Rima downtown where we fed hospital workers. I think I was making over 400 meals a week to feed hospital workers, 2 to 3 shifts a day.
Wow.
And that lasted for 2 to 3 months. Chef Andres, a world-renowned chef who came to Detroit and did the same thing for hospital workers. Just so many people within the community. And I should mention the Flint Farmers Market itself. They did things not only to help us be safe as vendors, but to try to keep us active. They've put up plexiglass for the vendors' booths.
Okay.
If you wanted it.
Okay.
They're doing all the protocols, making people wear masks and doing the best they can with that. So to quote to say a quote of "It takes a village," it takes the world for this, and I think Genesee County and Flint is doing a pretty good job.
Well, I think on that note, I think you have caught, I think, one of the greatest lessons that can be extracted out of everybody's journey. Even as an entrepreneur, a leader of an organization, even a leader of a family, doing it alone is a dangerous road. And the more we can learn to lean on each other, the more we can embrace the fear and yet let love, let our compassion for other people around us kind of guide and gauge our decision making. You all have given me the impression that, you know what, if we can keep that kind of mindset, we're going to be just fine. We want to thank you for tuning in with us today on this really insightful, I can't call it an interview, just a casual conversation with some community conscious leaders here in our community. I want to let you know that we're going to be dripping these videos over the course of the week, and want to invite you on Friday at 1 p.m. to join us live on Zoom as we introduce and welcome not only some additional awesome features, some awesome information. I look forward to also celebrating our keynote speaker, Mr. Sean Hart. He's a former Michigan State football player and has allowed that passion to pivot over the years into a way he's been able to channel not only that passion and energy into a way to make money, but even more so to make an impact in our community. And so we look forward to hearing more from him. We look forward to sharing more with you. And we look forward to hopefully you have an opportunity to visit and participate in some of the services, products that these gentlemen here have to offer. Last but not least, and I want to make sure that we do this with some enthusiasm. You know, as we're speaking to people that we're thankful for, people that allow us to do the things that we do, I surely can't leave out our appreciation and thankfulness for the team at Executive Wealth Management, who has chosen to be the sponsor for this segment. And Executive Wealth Management provides financial guidance and strategic instruction to help you map out and be on pace with your financial goals. We hope that you will continue to celebrate the great work that they've done to allow this segment to take place. And we hope that you will give them a call, a visit, a search on the internet, and let them know as well. You know, it's amazing as we're talking about these different ways in which we found a place of release, a place of rest, how to kind of unplug and be able to go back at it. I think that, you know, along this journey, you talk about yoga, you talk about getting away with the family, you talk about reading. You know, one of the journeys I've had has been just really embracing more time with family and embracing time in faith, prayer, hanging out and doing some worship. And that's where, you know, I want to give an extended appreciation, because for some of you that are listening and watching today, the Freedom Center, who is one of our primary sponsors and founder of the ECO organization that are hosting this online webinar, they are very embodying the opportunity for people in the community to have a place to go to find rest. ECO's finding and creating a place for entrepreneurs to come and get recharged. And so we want to encourage you, stay plugged in with ECO. I want to encourage you, you know, you on a Sunday or Wednesday, whatever day it may be, you can jump online. Allow the Freedom Center Church to be part of your regiment of how you recharge and how you gain perspective and get back to your fight. And so with that being said, we're glad to have them as our sponsors, and we're looking forward to being able to find other ways to be a support in that area also. Thanks so much for tuning in with us. We're looking forward to seeing you again soon.